54 months in federal prison, and I turn myself in tomorrow. I have no idea why 50 agents came to my house. My life has completely just stopped. We were in the merchant service industry for about 3 or 4 years. And through that process, you start dealing with people that are business owners that are looking for working capital.
Right.
So this is right when the merchant cash advance business was coming in. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They call them MCA loans.
I mean, I am. Isn't it like you take a percentage of your monthly average, and you can? There are companies that will lend you that money. Is it something like that?
It's like a factoring.
Okay.
It's like it's like Guido on steroids.
Break it down for me. I don't understand.
So somebody's doing what they do is they'll take, let's say you're doing $10,000 a month in credit card processing. So from what I remember, I've gotten away from it for a few years now, but they would take your 6-month average, and then you could borrow against your future receivables at a rate of it's like 50% or higher. So and then
your 6-month average. So let's say your 6-month average is $10,000 a month.
Sure.
And you're saying they'll lend you
$10,000.
$10,000.
And they want it paid back over a 6 to 8 month span. They want it right away.
Right.
They start taking it out of every sales immediately. And again, it's worse than Guido. The rates are unbelievable. I don't even know
20,
how
22%,
higher,
30%?
higher.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
Higher, 40, 50%.
All right.
And so
it's a good way to not get your money back.
yeah. Well, in a lot of guys, and it's what's amazing is a lot of people do it, and I don't know how it's still legal. To be honest with you, because
to me, if you're doing that, then that's even worse. Because I mean, if it's $10,000 in your monthly average based on your monthly average, why can't you just go to the bank?
Yeah.
Oh no, I have such bad credit. Oh well, let me lend you money at 50%. I feel like I know how this is going to end.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I feel like I'm already if I'm borrowing that money, I'm already going under. You're just helping me a little bit.
Yeah. And the worst part about it is there's positions now, they call them. So they'll go 3, 4, 5 positions now on these MCA loans. Again, where these business owners absolutely bury themselves.
So they just keep borrowing them. It's almost like a first mortgage, a second mortgage, a third mortgage.
But at a 40 or 50% rate. It's that high.
It's just pushing off the inevitable before you go under if you're doing that.
Yeah.
So
it's that high. So we got into that, but it's how I started seeing like business owners were needing working capital.
Right.
As opposed to if their credit is okay. Let's not say it's the greatest, but it's not the worst. They needed there's a middle. They need it today. We don't have it. Mm-hmm. Financing just doesn't allow it because either, you were in the mortgage industry, I believe. And, so a lot of these groups are looking for certain credit scores, time in business, so on and so forth. So was my start in my journey in getting into the working capital side of, for business owners. That's how I got into where I'm at today. Okay. But so working through the MCA stuff, you start to meet different people. And that's where I met a group called Allbex out of California that was doing sale leaseback. So where somebody owned equipment outright and they would actually release it to the business owner. So let's say Yellow Iron, you have a bulldozer or something of that nature where they would actually release it back to them for 50 cents on the dollar.
So I own a bulldozer.
Sure.
I'm a construction company. I own a bulldozer. You're going to lease me my bulldozer back.
Sure.
How?
Well, a lot of times the way the bulldozer would have to be paid off in full, so they would already have the title. So you would have to, the way that they would set it up is that they had vendor agreements with these companies that were doing, leasing bulldozers, and how they would approach it is that the customer was actually buying the bulldozer from them when they already have it. So they basically already own the asset outright. So they're just making it look like that they're selling them that asset that they already have, and where they were only giving them 50 cents on the dollar. So let's say the bulldozer's worth $50,000. Well, the customer would only get $25,000 for the working capital, but they would owe the $50,000. It's
I understand. I owe you. You're this
not
company.
me, the bank.
Okay,
Whichever
well, I
bank
understand.
approves it to
I
them.
understand.
Sorry.
I own this bank. So I'm a construction company and I got a yellow bulldozer that I own.
Sure.
And you're coming to me, the bank is saying, okay, we're going to lease you your own bulldozer back. So I'm making payments to them.
Well, the bank isn't coming to you. It's the company that has the vendor relationship with the bank.
So it's a middleman. It's a broker.
Yeah, it's a broker. So the broker is soliciting that they're providing working capital, and it's a way for the business owner to get the working capital. So the bank never knows.
Okay, so
All the bank thinks is that the customer is in the field for a new bulldozer or a used bulldozer, and they're just doing the financing end of it. So the bank approves it for the business owner. The bank's going to pay the vendor
25 grand.
50.
Oh, sorry, 50.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the broker is going to give that, or the vendor is going to give that 50% to the business owner for their working capital, and they get to keep the bulldozer, but they make their payments to the bank.
Okay.
A lease payments,
Right.
usually on a 60 to 72 month term.
Okay. So they got their bulldozer, plus they got 50 grand.
25.
Sorry,
They already,
20. Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Don't mean to sound confusing a
No,
little bit.
so
I'm
okay,
not
so
trying to.
20
They already own the
Yeah,
bulldozer.
I thought it was half of. I thought it was half of
Half of
50,
what the
but then
lease-
you said
yeah.
50, and I thought, okay, maybe. It
Well,
was
the
half of
lease
100.
amount is for 50. Yeah.
Okay.
But the bulldozer is just a point. The company Allbex out of California used to do. They would run ads for business owners looking for working capital. So they had multiple vendor groups. They had guys in the automotive. They had people in the restaurant industry. They had set up probably 5 or 8 different vendors that specialized in different equipment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because again, the business owner already has the equipment there, whether if it's at their shop or whatever may have you, and they would just make it look like the customer was in that industry looking to purchase that equipment. Trying to simplify it as much as I can for you. In all reality, the business owner is looking for working capital.
So as I'm paying you, or as the business owner, I'm paying the bank, whatever, $1,100 or $700 a month, whatever. Once I get to the end of it, that lease is paid off, and I just keep my
You
bulldozer.
keep the bulldozer you always had. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Because I'm going to say, I remember, do they have fax machines anymore? They don't have fax machines. Nobody's got a fax, do they? Still have fax machine?
That was really big. There was a big company out of Colorado that
Because I had a fax machine, and I had a copier that was probably 10 grand, maybe 10,000. We paid like $300 and something a month for
sure
3 years or 5 years, whatever it was. And then at the end of it, for $1,
it's a dollar
you buy it back.
Yeah.
So that way you can write off 100% of the lease payment, even though I've got I've got the copier. I'm paying that every month, and then at the end you buy it for $1.
Yeah.
So now I have got this asset that I was able to write off 100% of it.
Sure.
Right. That's just a tax.
Equipment
loophole.
leases. Absolute tax write-off.
I did the same thing with 2 fax machines. Although just to say fax machine right now, people in the comments are going to be like, "Fax machine, bro? Nobody's got a fax. What's a fax machine?"
Yeah.
So
There's actually a company out of Colorado where there's a massive lawsuit as we speak, where a large leasing company is suing them because that's exactly what they were doing. So they were inflating the price of the fax machine, and they inflate the price. Like I spoke with you before, they inflate the price
all right.
so they can give the 50 to 60% back in working capital to the customer.
Right.
See, the customer, the business owner is completely aware of what's going on.
Well, does the bank, in that scenario, doesn't the bank realize that the bulldozer or fax machine is only $1,000 fax machine? And you're saying it's worth $5,000. Doesn't the bank have the ability to say, this fax machine sells at fucking Staples for $1,100? You're leasing
Sure.
it to these guys for $5,000? Don't they have the ability to say, hey, that's that's something's not right there, or we
Absolutely.
disagree with that. We don't think this evaluation is correct, or
Sure.
because they have a due diligence period, right? They have underwriters.
Who's the underwriter? Right.
Yeah, the bank, right? The bank's underwriting.
That's what I'm saying. So who's looking at the deal? So the answer to that is absolutely.
Okay.
But reality is they could care less. It's all
They
about,
just want to make these loans.
it's all about numbers.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, they should, and it takes, with all the technology today, it literally would take a couple minutes to look it up and say, okay, here's what it is, and what's the serial number and what's the model number, and they can look it up. Absolutely. They don't base most of these loans, because I was in it for probably about 10 years. We'll get into what we were doing for about 10 years. And what I know for a fact is they don't care about the asset. They could care less. It's all about the numbers. Because remember, the phone's ringing. There's a sales rep that works for that bank, whether it be Bank of the West, Dell Financial, and they have numbers. They have quotas that they have to hit. So they're picking up the phone. They're dialing all day long. Hey, what do you got? What are you working on? What can you send? You got any bigger deals? Got any deals for $250,000? They're pushing for the numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it sounds like the prior to the financial crisis, where they stopped even doing full appraisals. They're just doing drive-by appraisals, or they call them
site inspections.
Yeah, no, they're desktop. They call them I don't know if they still call them desktop, but it's like, it's just some guy who's in California who's looking at the comparable sales in the neighborhood within a mile and saying, yeah, it's about the same square footage. I think it's probably worth $400,000. But if they actually sent somebody out there to go through the whole property, they'd be like, oh, this thing $280 at most. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
Or it's not even livable, but they stopped doing, towards the end, they stopped doing that. Just like they stopped verifying if you had the income, no asset, no income loans, or no, I forget what they call it. Anyway, yeah, they stopped because they were being pressured so much to make these loans, and they were able to sell them and then of course put them into tranches and packages.
Yeah, that's a big market too, even in the equipment industry. It's huge.
Right.
So yeah, they don't care about the asset.
Okay.
And it's all about the numbers.
So how was that business? Pretty good.
The one the one that we were talking about, we were
the tractor.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of got it into where we were working with getting the working capital or business loans, whatever you want to call them, for business owners, making it a little easier for them. And so through that is where technology was kind of starting to open up. And that's how we had gotten into the computer server industry with technology, and started working with a group or two where they were like, hey, listen, all these leasing companies and banks, they're pushing technology, and they're like, started working for a group. And the next thing you know, again, pushed it really hard and was like, we could do this on our own, where these guys were buying pieces of technology for, $700 to $1,200, and they were turning around leasing it in the beginning for about $25,000 to $40,000 on the low end. And again,
What technology are they buying?
Computer servers.
Okay.
That's simple. Just a computer server, and nothing state of the art. I mean, they, again, the leasing companies weren't doing any research whatsoever. So a lot of times, even if let's just say they put a Dell server there, it was never questioned. And it was all, the approvals were always based off of the customer's ability to pay back. So whether if their business was strong enough where they could do it business only, or if their personal credit was strong enough, again, it refers back to they could care less. They didn't care less about the asset.
So I go to you and I say, I got a Dell server.
Yep.
Which you bought for whatever.
$800.
$800.
Yep.
And you say, I'm gonna lease this to you for, whatever, $20,000.
Sure.
And you say, that's crazy, bro. I can pick one of those up at Staples for less than $1,000. And yeah, but if you lease this from me for $20,000, I'll give you $10,000. You can make the lease payment, and then as soon as you're done with the lease payment, of course, you just keep
Sure.
it. And if they say yes, okay, cool, then you write up an application, you fill out a credit application, and then you send that to who?
To the bank or the financial institution.
Is there a specific bank?
We can use Dell Financial.
So Dell Financial is now financing their own server for $20,000.
Yep.
That they know sells for $800.
Apps 100%. 100%. So
does that, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Like that doesn't make sense. Like, it's worth, why are you lending 20 grand on something you know is $800?
And so here's something even better. So eventually, as I was working with a different group, I said, you know what, we should do this on our own. I don't need to work with these guys. And I kind of seen how the process went, and being in sales and being aggressive, a lot of people were doing it. I was like, we're going to do this on my own. So I worked with Dell Financial. I think I had told you about that. And, we did Dell Financial. We did $6.5 million with Dell Financial in equipment leasing. Now, Dell Financial will take a Lenovo product. They will take a Zenith product. They will take a Rebate product. It didn't matter. The craziest thing, it did not matter you would send over an invoice to them with a dollar amount on it. So at this point now, I'm doing this on my own. I'm no longer working for a group. We're doing this, and we've got 4 or 5 brokers that we've reached out to because they're in that MCA group that we first talked about, or they're doing SBA loans, and customer may not, they may not qualify for that. And we called it rebates. Now, we didn't call it rebate loan. We just said, hey, we've got this rebate product. You get the computer server, you get the technology, then you also get the rebate, which you can use for working capital. You can pay bills, you can buy product, you can expand, you can do whatever you need to do. And we went from probably, we set up that relationship. It was back in 18, 19, and we started kind of testing the waters, and we started off at about $30,000. And by the time we finished, if the customer qualified, we were doing deals for $150,000
for servers,
for a server, a server. And as I was doing it, I mean, obviously we inflated the price, but there's nothing wrong with product. And as I was doing it, I again, we did it for many years, and, Dell Financial was accepting it. Now, remember, Dell is huge, and, we're sending in what is so-called an invoice, what they ask for. And on the invoice, all we would do is put, just the product name on there. Right. They didn't want any description. They didn't want any model numbers. They didn't want anything. And all they based their approvals off of was the customer's ability to pay back. And most
Did they pull
of
their
them,
credit score? Nothing?
business only.
Oh, okay.
So you didn't even have to, I'll use the word PG. You may know what that means, but other people may not. They didn't have to personally guarantee the loan either. Or it's actually, the lease. So now we're doing, $50,000 to $100,000 deals with the same type of equipment. They're accepting the business, and I'm getting calls every day from the rep from Dell Financial saying, you're doing great.
Send us more.
So, yeah, keep sending them. Your portfolio is amazing, meaning, people are paying. People are doing, because again, if they're being approved business only, there were some criteria, certain time in business, and they would have had to have proved their credit worthiness, just like if somebody takes out a mortgage. And did that for probably with Dell Financial. It was I think a little right around 2 years, but never questioned an invoice ever. And
so how much of this what is your fee? Your company's fee?
Our fee would be, so there were brokers involved.
Right.
So obviously the business owner would get their rebate, of 50%. So we'll use a $100,000 deal. They would get $50,000 back.
Right. And then
in their rebate, they would get the equipment. And then if there was a broker involved, but at that time we were doing enough business, I didn't have to go get any business. Brokers would just keep sending in the deals.
What are those brokers?
They would get 20%.
Okay.
So on a $100,000 deal,
they can make 20 grand.
They did.
Right.
They did. And the $30,000 we kept for the company, where we would buy the equipment, ship the equipment.
Yeah. Pay your overhead.
Pay the overhead, pay the expenses a little bit.
Right.
And go from there. And
advertise? Do you advertise, or it's just word of mouth?
Yeah, word of mouth. Because when you're in that type of industry, and I had worked in that industry for, like I said, probably 10 years, people find you, and then they, business owners are always looking for working capital. And here's what really amazed me, that they could lease a computer server, which is not for $100,000, but they couldn't go anywhere else and get any real money, meaning they couldn't get a regular loan from a bank. SBA turned them down. They could go to the MCA group and pay that high risk, which isn't a tax write-off, because remember, when you're leasing the equipment, you can write it off on your taxes, because it is, you can deduct it, and it's up to their CPA how they want to do it. I mean, we didn't advise that, but that's up to their CPA.
I had a guy. So this sounds like. So I had a guy who owned a company. It was something like Tech something. I remember it was Tech something, and he had started. He had started a company that was repairing like computers and stuff like that. He actually worked for the company, and then the owner of the company sold him. He retired and gave him the company, and he bought it from him. And then this guy got approached by a solar panels. So under the Biden administration, and I remember he was telling me, he's like, God, he wanted Biden to win so bad. He's like, because I think Trump's going to shut this down. And I was like, really? He was like, what is it? And he was trying to get me to kind of like, bro, you should do this. Like, you could advertise on your channel. You could. And it was amazing, because he was like, look, here's what's happening. You've got a house that's worth $100,000. I was like, okay. He goes, you want to get solar panels? The solar panels are $20,000. I was like, okay. He goes, we'll install the solar panels, install the solar panels, and we'll finance the whole thing through this the Biden administration had this whole loan process.
Sure.
So with the banks, but they guaranteed the loans. So you get your 20 grand. You get your solar panels. Okay, cool. He goes, and if you need any other home improvements that are eco-friendly, he was like, we could replace all the windows in your house for another $15,000. And I'm like, okay, well, who pays for that? He goes, that program.
Wow. And
I was like, okay. And he said, up to 150% of the value of your home.
Wow.
So they'll lend you $50,000. He said, now, if you only owe, the house is worth $100,000, and let's say you owe $70,000. You already owe 70. You got $30,000. They'll lend you the 30. So now it's 30 plus the 50. So it's $80,000 to do any home improvements you want. And the interest rate was like 6%. And it was a second mortgage on your house. And yeah, it was insane. When I was like, well, how do you qualify? He's like, you only had to have like a 550 credit score. He said you had to state how much money you were making. Like it was insane.
Sure.
And I was like, that just doesn't seem legal. He goes, it's the fucking government, bro. He's like, they're the ones who made the rules. He's like, wow. These guys have been doing this for fucking, for 4 years now, or 3 years, because it's about a year ago. And it sounds like the same kind of thing, where it's like, how can you lend more than what the value of the product is? But that was I wonder if that program still, because listen, it sounded pretty good. Yeah. Like I was thinking that's got to be a slam
almost
dunk.
Too good to be true.
Yeah, which I don't know if it shut down or if they were losing money. Like I don't know how those loans were performing, but yeah, people were getting solar panels. The solar panel was really big for a while. Yeah. I don't know if it still is, but it sounds very similar to this, and that was a government program. So
yeah. In it again, who's the underwriter? Who's
Yeah.
looking at these deals? I mean, when
Yeah, the bank is.
they have to get it approved, right? Somebody has to sign off on it. And I think from the beginning, without a doubt, they knew, and they know today exactly what's going on. Now, I'm obviously no longer in that industry. That's why the FBI showed up at my house, and we can get into that. But
It is a true crime program.
yeah, right.
Well, I'd like to talk about that.
And whenever
at
you're
some
ready,
point.
yeah, and we will. So
Okay.
if I'm over talking it, you tell me.
So
But-
how long did this go on? Like,
I did that I was in the industry for about 10 years. And yeah. But I was always making sure, listen, I looked for quality customers. This wasn't, I wasn't the guy in the business where if I felt like anybody was doing anything shady, lies, if I caught anything, I would cut them off immediately. And I ran my business like that. I was concerned about the business owner, making sure they got their money.
right.
And so,
There's no benefit to burn the bank because then they
Absolutely not.
stop working with you.
and you make a great point. We'll get into something a little bit later, which may amaze you. In my case, is you're right. If you have a relationship with a bank or a leasing company and you send in 10 customers and 5 of them are either first payment default or they stop paying in the first 2 or 3 months,
Yeah, they stop working.
how
with
long do you think that
No,
relationship's going to last?
you. They shut them off. I know. I've had several.
They're going
banks
to pick
shut
up
me off.
they're going to pick up the phone and go, what's going on here? Where's our money? Can you call the customer? Can you get them on the phone?
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree with you. I was always about being ethical, making sure that the customers, the business owners were taken care of. And I, as much as I could, I didn't meet the brokers, but I tried to do my due diligence. And, everybody knew if you fuck around, I catch you lying. If I catch anything, I just cut them off. Stop communication completely because it wasn't worth it. And again, when you're dealing with business owners and you tell them you're going to do something, I wanted to do it. I wanted to make sure. But yeah, it ran for about 10 years. And I had situations like that where I was working with a bank or a leasing company and, we were 6-7 months in and unbeknownst, because, I'm not doing business, they're approving it. So they approved it. But where you get somebody that's a first payment default. Mm-hmm. And if it's $100,000 deal, that's a lot of money. And of course, they're picking up the phone wondering, the first word is fraud.
Right.
Where it's like, well, no, customer got their equipment. And outside, most of these groups that I worked with knew that the business owner was getting the rebate.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't care. Didn't say anything. Just keep sending them. What are you working on? What are you working on? Send me something new. So most of the groups and banks that I work with knew that the business owner was getting the rebate on top of the server. So
what happened in those instances where there was fraud? They look into it.
They look into it, and I would try to help. I would try to intervene. I get the broker on the phone and say, hey, look, here's ABC Liquor. Their first payment default. Find out what's going on.
Right.
What the fuck? We're going to lose our relationship with the bank. Not only that, man, I don't think I want to work with you anymore.
Right.
You need to figure out what's going on or this is over. And remember, it was enticing for them because they're getting 20% back.
Right.
Right? That's a lot of money. And again, clean, thought everything was clean. So I tried to do the best that I could to try to help the bank out. And some customers would just take the money and, like anything, somebody can go buy a car and they stop making payments the first day and you don't ever see them again. But I would try to do the best that I could to try to help these banks and leasing companies out, whichever, if I had a call here or there, to do the best that I could.
How often did that happen?
I would say, on an average, maybe 1 out of 30 deals, unfortunately.
Right.
Because again, we tried to pre-screen everybody, time in business, 5 years or more in business, tried to do the due diligence. Because again, you've got shelf corps, guys that are doing all kinds of shit out here to make it look like they're running a bit. I mean, I would catch fraud on the daily.
Right.
And call the broker.
How long did the business have to be in business? Had to be how much? Like it had to be
minimum like 3 years.
Okay. Who set that? Who said that?
A lot of the banks do.
Right. They say the bank has to be, or this company, we don't do any companies less than 3 years old.
Less than 3 years.
Like they have certain underwriting criteria that you have to meet.
Yeah, they do. And remember, there's a lot of different banks and leasing companies out here, and I didn't really deal with any high risk. There's some high risk companies out here where the payments are really astronomical, but we just stayed away from any of the high risk bank. This was more A/B paper.
Right.
So again, like Dell Financial, CIT, Bank of the West, Wells Fargo. There's a lot of big groups.
So who's making
Leaf.
who's like what's the average interest rate?
I want to say somewhere between 8 to 12%.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think probably more on the 12% side.
And the term?
60 months.
Okay.
Yeah, usually 60 months. Again, on a computer server.
I was gonna say that's what is it? Say 10, how much is that? That's 3 times. That's a payment of what? A couple grand a month?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think on 50 grand it was like $1,200. On 100,000, $2,300.
Okay.
Somewhere in that vicinity, if I remember. Yeah, it's been a couple of years now, but.
So what happened? Think life's good?
Yeah, everything's going good, and.
Well, thanks for coming by.
Yeah. And.
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, tomorrow I turn myself into the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And
How did that happen?
well, about 2.5 years ago, it was December of 22. We're in the store 2 weeks before Christmas. And I get a call and it says, "Hey, is Jason in?" And I said, "Yeah, this is FBI agent, yada, yada, from Texas." Just leave it at that. I said, "Okay." And he says, "Are you home right now?" And I just click. I hung up.
You just thought it was a crank call?
I did.
Did you know that any of this was coming?
No.
Had you heard anything?
Nothing.
Nobody's calling you saying, "Hey, man, we were just subpoenaed."
No.
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So it's just completely out of the blue. It's like somebody's fucking with me. Click.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And at that point, I only worked with 3 or 4 guys, and guys that are good. They were good guys. I'll just leave it at that. They were straight up guys. So from what we were doing, I wouldn't think that. On my cell phone, I had cameras, that surrounded the house. And so I just pulled it up, and I was in absolute disbelief.
What was on the cameras?
Probably 50 agents, FBI agents. The house was surrounded. Literally, we lived on the water. They were in the back, I think somewhere in the fucking swimming pool. And
So were they holding hands all the way around the fucking house? Like,
yeah.
we got him.
yeah, I think they had a boat out in the river there on the water with the fucking lights flashing. But all jokes aside, they had the big trucks with the sirens going, and because you could see everything out front, and I was like, whoa. So he called back, obviously, and he says, "Hey, Jason, FBI, yes, yada, yada." And he says, "Can you come home?" And I said, "For what?" He says, "Well, I really want to talk to you." And I said, "Oh." And I said, "For what?" I said, "What's going on?" He says, "Well, I can't tell you, but I really need you to turn back around and come home." Now, I was thinking at that point, with all these agents, this just doesn't happen out of nowhere. And I had no clue why they were there, 100%. At that point, I had no idea. I'm not involved in anything in my life per se, let's put it that way, where there was something there in my back of my head and I'm going, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have fucking did that. Or
It's not like you're saying,
none of it. There was absolutely nothing.
That pay stub I faked 15 years ago working for the dealership caught up with me.
Yeah, no. Checking the X's like, no. And he was just very persistent about, you just need to come back. I need to speak with you. And I just said, no, I'm not coming back. He says, "Well, we're going to kick the front door in." And I said, okay. And I hung up and I called an attorney, and he was texting me, "You have 5 minutes." So I talked to an attorney, and he says, "Well, I need you to get to my office." But I said, "Well, they said they're going to kick the front door in." I said, "But I can unlock it from the cell phone." He says, "Why don't you just call them and let them know we'll unlock it, unlock the front door." So I called him back. And he says, Are you on your way back? And I said, "No." He says, "Well, we're going to kick the front door in again." And I said, "You don't have to do that." I said, "I'll unlock it from the phone." That's exactly what I did. And then I had cameras inside the house. And at this point, my wife was watching, unfortunately. And you can just see they came right in. Again, I had to have been watching. Something was going on because they knew exactly where to go to pull the plug. on all the cameras and everything. It was like 1,000, 2, 1,000, boom. So they knew exactly where the panel box was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you have camera, but it was pretty high end, what I had in my house. And so you could see them running in, again, like you're watching it. And I mean, this is your home. You know, we have kids. 2 weeks before Christmas, there's presents. And 1,000, 2, 1,000, and it just goes because they had cut the cameras and everything. So my first thing is I'm thinking, obviously, what's going on? I'm not going home. Am I under arrest? No. Okay. So I call an attorney, my first attorney of 4, unfortunately. It's been a hell of a ride.
Are you thinking this is a mistake? Like
Just trying to figure it out. Okay. I'm a thinker. Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I've seen that before, but I couldn't put my hand on it. I mean, there was just too many there. It was like, something's going on here. And I'm just trying to think, right? But at that moment, I mean, you've kind of been through a similar, you've had things happen to you. And at that moment, I was worried about my family, worried about my wife, worried about my kids. And so we go to the first attorney, he says, come on in. And we go into the first attorney and we go up to the front. They're waiting for me, right? They're waiting patiently and they're at the door and come in. And they're shuffling us through and we're almost kind of like jogging. And I'm going, God, what the fuck? My head's still going, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what am I missing? Like something massive's going on. Right. So we get hurdled off into his back office. He shuts all the blinds and give me your cell phones. Both of you, cell phones. Puts it in a box. He had and he shuts it and he goes, all right, they're probably listening. And I'm like, what did I do? At this point, he doesn't have a clue. And the point is with the attorney, most of these attorneys could fucking care less. Right. Period. He definitely just was seeing dollar signs. So my point of that story is before I even got a word out, I'm being shuffled into an office. They're closing the blinds and they're putting cell phones in some type of box that nobody can hear us, and it's being stored away. I'm thinking, who did I kill? Like, what am I missing here? Mm-hmm. And when you're not involved in anything, like I didn't think I was, that's even harder, right? Because some guys stole the jewelry, right? Some guys stole the money. Right. Some guys robbed the dealership. They got the fake IDs in their pocket. I didn't have anything like that. And again, not that I'm better than anyone else, but that's the truth. I'm fucking lost. And so that was the first attorney. And, even from starting to talk with him, he said, I'll get on the phone. Let's see, I'll call the agent. I gave him the number, when we had went in before he took the phone. And the agent wouldn't tell him anything other than he can have the house back by like 4. So they were there from like 9 to 4, an all day deal. Again, there was nothing there. No drugs. I mean, they had some cash that they took. They took cash that I had at the house, a couple different things, but only took a couple things out of my office. My computer. Again, there wasn't much there. Not that I'm not trying to, it was very strange because, when we were able to get back on that first day, not trying to jump around, but when we were able to get back into the house, I mean, they had torn all the pictures off the back. They opened up the presents and I'm going, right? I still don't understand why they're there. I don't have a clue. My wife comes to me and goes, what the fuck's going on? Right. And I still have absolutely no answers. And so, you're going through your home and you're looking through and you see, I mean, everything was just flipped upside down. And so, I mean, you're in a stage where, I mean, you don't know what to do that day. Right. Standing there at that moment.
What is, real quick, what did the attorney ask for? He asked for, he must ask for a deposit. Give me $20,000 right now.
Yeah, the attorney was funny, the first one. Like I told you, I went through 4. The first one, I lived on the river, so he lived basically across from me.
Okay, so you knew somebody to call.
Well, yeah, he's got a good name there, and so yeah, you knew, yeah, if people that's been in serious trouble, has referred to this guy, but so I believe the first I gave him, when I walked in there, I believe it was $30,000 right when I walked in. And, you know, he was a big jewels guy right off the bat. So he went from give me your phones to something's going on here. Bad, we're going to find out, to so gold, silver, any fine art. And I'm sitting here going, am I in the fucking Twilight Zone?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Money.
Right.
For money, yeah. And I had a pair of jet skis on my dock.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I've always wanted a couple. I wanted a couple jet skis. And I'm going, I have no idea why 50 agents came to my fucking house.
Yeah.
My life like that, which you have, has completely just stopped. Completely. And this guy wants to know if I've got gold, silver, fine art. How about the jet skis? I can see them from here. I'm like, I'm going, yeah, because I went to his house.
Yeah.
Again, trying to figure out, where we were at and what the fuck was going on. And he held on tight, right? All he was seeing was dollar signs. I'll go to, he knew they came from Texas. We'll leave it at that. She's like, yeah, we're talking 300,000, not a big deal. I'll fly with you. We'll eat together.
I'll bet you will.
I'm sitting here thinking,
for 300,000, we'll be best friends.
This guy's a fucking lunatic. Absolutely. And so immediately I'm going, no, this isn't going to work. I mean, I paid him the money that he asked for. So he got the FBI agent on the phone. Again, he just said he was from Texas, a certain area from Texas, but wouldn't tell him absolutely nothing. We still had no idea. He said, we need to set up a proffer. All right. Mm-hmm. So if he's willing to come in and just sit down and answer some questions, we can kind of go from there. We'll kind of give you an idea. And that's what I was told. And I had no idea what a proffer was. And I said, well, what's a proffer? He's like, well, you just go in there. All you got to do, we'll fly together. I'll come with you. We'll stay at a nice place. We'll get a nice hotel. We'll make some time out of this. And I'm going, I don't want to fucking make any time with you.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? No way. And so the proffer really wasn't explained. So I had to come to Jesus after I left. And this is when he asked me, the jet skis, I had went to his house in the driveway and you could see my house right on the other side. I was on the ocean side. And that's when he said, me and the old ladies always wanted a set of jet skis. And I just said, this is it. I can't deal with this fucking guy. Mm-hmm. So I looked around and I hired my second attorney, and 40-year vet, thought I found a killer, military attorney, former prosecutor, blah, 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 DOJ. So I hand him 120. Yeah, 120. He takes 25, he takes 25 to do the introduction and the proffer. If that makes sense.
Okay.
And he wanted another 80, after the proffer, to be held in an escrow, not to be touched. He said, I will not touch it unless you're charged with a crime or there's a trial or anything of that nature. And I said, okay,
He already knows you're going to be charged. They didn't raid your house. He already knows.
Well, he was telling me, he was sending emails that I'm going to detour the DOJ and
I'm gonna do what
from
I can.
charging you. Oh, I'm going to get, you're going to get the 80 back. Effort. Yeah, no big deal. So, funny story about this second attorney, which was great. Never explained the proffer at all. Never prepped me. Mm-hmm. Never give me any information. All he says is, don't lie. Don't lie. Don't come here to Texas and don't lie. I said, okay, well, I'm not going to lie anyways because they'll use it against you. So I had never met him. I paid him, sent him his money. I never met him in the day that I get there in the morning.
You probably drink the same coffee every morning. It's fine. But what if there was something better? Trade Coffee helps you find coffee that's fresh, tastes great, and is made just for you. You take a quick quiz, and they match you with coffee you'll love. It's sent straight to your door, super fresh, from small roasters all over the country. They have over 400 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know your favorites, they'll handpick the perfect coffee just for you. And if that first bag isn't quite right, Trade will replace it for free until they nail it. The price is on par with grocery brands, but the quality is next level. Plus, you're supporting local roasters, so it's a win-win. Trade subscription is flexible, so you can pause or shift deliveries while you're away. Once you try it, you won't ever want to go back to your old coffee. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/Matthew. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/Matthew for 50% off your 1-month trial.
He introduces me to a young lady, and she's working on the case with me. This is attorney such and such. And, I'm walking in, I think there were 5 agents, FBI agents. Yeah, I was in the district attorney, whatever, the USA, how do they say that?
Assistant U.S. District, AUSA.
Yeah, AUSA, I always mess that up. And so, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that was going to be his future wife. It was his girlfriend at the time.
The AUSA?
No, the attorney, the girl that he says, hey, this is
Jennifer. Yeah.
and that was her name.
No.
I swear to God.
Okay. Well.
Sure. And they're married now. But this is Jennifer, such and such. And she's working with me on your case. No worries. Everything fine? Yeah, sure. And didn't put it together. We'll beat on that. But so I go in there into this proffer and not prepped. Didn't, and again, I would think somebody would want to prep.
Right.
If you're going to do a proffer. Not to go in and lie, but you got to know what the hell is going on.
What to answer, what not to answer. Don't answer till I tell you to answer. Go through the whole thing.
So a week prior to getting there is when I found out that Dell Financial had filed a, what do they call
Complaint?
it? Complaint. And I'm like, Dell Financial? And then that's when the light bulbs went, okay, yeah, we worked with Dell Financial, and I was starting to get the
Had they ever cut you off?
The relationship ended, but I think it was mutual. I don't know if they were weeding out their relationships, that vendor relationship that was sending in that type of paper, because again, I think they wanted to just stick with Dell products, because when you were approved and set up as a vendor, you could send in, they didn't care what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be IBM, it could be
the relationship did end, but I believe it was mutual. I don't remember an email or a phone call saying, hey, you've been terminated and this is why. Never.
Okay.
Or you sent us $6.5 million in business, but 6.3 of it went bad.
Right.
That's their claim today, but we'll get into that a little bit later, which would be literally impossible because, if you send in 10 customers, it goes back to, and 5 of them don't pay, they're going to cut you off immediately. So, so that's when I first got an insight of why the FBI was at the house for that. So, which is considered like a white collar crime, I guess. So there was nobody killed, no drugs, nothing of that severity that I would think that would bring that type of approach. I mean, guns drawn and by that point, my wife had felt like she was being tailed. A lot of things had finally came together, and we were being followed. They were watching everything months prior, because I have the paperwork that, you get from when you take a plea, blah, blah, blah. They give you all the information, but
they're following you, hoping you'll lead them to the
honeypot,
the safety deposit boxes. That are spread throughout the state.
Yeah.
And you would jump on a plane and fly to Belize, and your secret.
Yeah.
Account.
So they know who you are.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. They know your demeanor. They know exactly whatever house they're going into, whether it's today, tomorrow, yesterday, they know basically who they're dealing with. So, I mean, we weren't hurting anybody and we weren't going to harm anybody. So anyways, we go in and we do this proffer, and, I was pretty thrown back that, the amount of agents that were in there. Again, I'm thinking, wow, Dell Financial, and this is where they had some of the information. Not a whole lot. I mean, because they only took, my computer. There wasn't a whole lot, and I didn't store things like laying around. Like there's a stack of 100 deals for, $15 million just kind of up against the wall. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't keep things like that. I didn't feel like that I needed to. And I mean, they were focused in on, it almost seemed, we had gone through the talked about the rebate and how they felt, they weren't happy with the inflation of the price, and that I was giving the rebate back to the customer. That's what they basically felt was a crime in their eyes, obviously. But a lot of the agents, there were agents in there for like PPP stuff. And they were homing in on that kind of stuff. Did you take a PPP loan? And I said, no. He said, why not? Why didn't you take the money? Yeah.
Why are you doing your head like that?
Well, that's because, And I'm going, well, because would never take a dollar from the federal government, honestly. I don't want a fucking dollar from them because they want it back. But yeah, it was quite an experience. And the attorney, I think he said one word, maybe two. Didn't say much, kind of just sat there, and he was, staring at Jennifer a lot. And I'm going, I'm sitting here thinking, what the fuck is going on here? And I've got all this. And so do the proffer, and I don't mean to laugh about it, but it is what it is, and do the proffer. And so we leave out of there, right? And he's like, all right, hang in there, Jason, hang in there. And they turn around and start walking. And next thing you know, they're holding hands. And I'm going, what the fuck? Another part of my journey.
Right.
And so left from there. And, at that point, it was more of I did the proffer. He wanted the $80,000 with which I sent. It's called an IOTA account, I believe. It's where the money's supposed to be. It just sits there and nobody touches it. IOTA is the words that they use in the attorney world. And I want to say legitimately 40 days later, I get an email. Hey, Jason, listen, I moved that $80,000, yada, yada. It's going to help me in the short term. But if you don't if you don't take a plea or this doesn't go to trial and I can get this thrown out, which that's the plan, I'll give you every dollar back. You'll get your $80,000 back. And it was just
that there's an incentive for you to have any of that. Get me unindicted.
Yeah.
Or
well, he shouldn't have touched the money in the first place.
But I mean,
that was the deal.
Right.
Yeah. It could have been a part of his ploy. I honestly.
Well, they're just
couldn't tell you.
It's being a criminal defense attorney is a license to steal.
And that's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he just took that money, and from that point, it was hard to get him on the phone. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he is a military attorney, so he travels a lot. So he uses that as his ploy. I can't talk right now. Just email me, and then I'll just get back to you when I can. So we had, we went through the hoops. They'd have questions here, they'd have questions there, and one day I get a call. It's from the attorney that took the money, and he says, well, they're going to offer you a plea. I said, whoa, I thought we were going to try to dissuade the government from charging me with anything.
Right.
I was going to be in the good and getting my money back. No. And listen, I've worked my ass off on this. I said, I haven't heard from you. Shit. It's been fucking months. You've worked your ass off.
Right.
What's conspiracy to commit wire fraud? I said, what is that?
Right.
I had again, I'm not trying to be funny and make faces. What is that? Listen, Jason, look it up, but this is the plea. Now, I'm on a cruise ship right now. I'm not gonna be able to get on for a couple days.
For the short term?
Go over it, look at the plea, and then when I get back, we'll talk. And I'm going, and in the whole time, I'm completely humiliated. I'm embarrassed. I'm not telling my wife everything, meaning here came a plea. She's been destroyed, literally. I mean, we've been together for 24 years and have an amazing family. Married to my wife for 24 years. She's gone through absolute hell. It was it took time to tell her. I mean, I didn't even tell her right away that I had gotten a plea deal. We were traveling. Our kids are into blah, blah, blah. I just couldn't find the moment to grab her and go, fuck, they just sent me a plea agreement for conspiracy to commit wire fraud.
So what is the plea? Have you been indicted?
I never was indicted.
Okay, right.
So I took a information.
Yeah.
Whatever their words are, information to
Does a plea? I'm sorry. Does a plea agreement? Does it like say like, oh, I'm gonna be facing 3 years, 5 years, or
no,
not
it-
really?
No, mine was
Typically-
up to 20 years. Mine said specific verbiage.
Yeah, that's the maximum.
Maximum is 20 years.
Right, but you'll fall wherever the guidelines place you.
Yeah,
right.
unfortunately. So in that plea, I never understood how important it is the dollar amount. So
Right.
in that plea was $15 million
Yeah,
that I never seen any proof of. So they're saying I did $15 million in business, but there was never any discovery. There was never any proof that said, okay, well, here's the portfolio of business that let's add this to everything else. Does that make sense to you?
yeah.
So they used a number. The second attorney could care less. He just looked at it as, and he sent the sentencing. He left that open, meaning, you know how you can say, well, no more than 5 years, no more than 3 years. Yeah, you can get up to 20, but as a part of the deal, right, whatever, right? If you take this plea, what I was told by other attorneys that they could have capped the sentencing. So the prosecutor could have asked for the whole 20 years, which is unrealistic today. Obviously, we both know that, but
Or you could also have pled to something with a lower max.
yeah,
So you could have said, so my first plea, I pled to wire fraud or fraud against the United States government, something like that. So it was something along the, because wire fraud carried up to 20 years.
Yeah.
And my first attorney was like, yeah, I'm not letting them plead to up to 20 years. I'll let them plead to wire fraud committed against the United States government. He goes, it's got a max of 5 years. So,
Yeah.
and so even though my dollar amount for my first crime was nothing, like there was no dollar amount, but he was still like,
yeah,
so, I mean, they probably could have altered it and had you plead to something else that did not carry a maximum of 20 years.
yeah. And the attorney could have fought more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like the
Unbeknownst
whole,
to my, I have, again, I'm,
and it doesn't, here's the thing that the attorneys, a lot of times they don't want, they'll put it on you like, oh, we don't want to do that. We don't want to upset him. Well, wait a minute. The only person that would be upsetting him is you.
yeah,
Like you're talking to him for me.
right.
It's not like I'm behind you going, bro, fuck that. Tell him this. Tell him I won't do. Tell him that. Like what happens is they're talking. They know that you're not behind them, so
Yeah.
they can always say, no, wait a minute. We'll plead. We need to agree first on this. We need to agree first on, or wait a minute, he won't plead to that. I'm not going to let my client do that. Absolutely not. And then they're not mad at. It's not like they're upset with you.
Yeah,
Your attorney's fighting for you, and they expect that.
sure.
But you know, these guys all play golf together, and they see each other. They shake hands, and
Sad
they see each
though,
other
Matt.
constantly.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry especially when
It's
you
a
have
system.
good people involved.
It's the system.
And so in that plea, when Mr. Attorney gets off the cruise ship and we're going over, he never physically went over, like we didn't read it. There wasn't a Zoom meeting that said, okay, 10 o'clock, we're going to be on a Zoom. Remember, 80 and 25 is blah, blah, blah. We're going to be on a Zoom meeting so we can go over each page.
Right.
And so you understand exactly what's in this plea.
Right.
That's how it should be.
Right.
Now, it could be overwhelming for other people, but so I had to go through it all by myself. He didn't want to go through it with me. And I had asked him minimum of 10 times, okay, where's the proof of the $15 million? Okay, well, I'll accept it. Just show me it.
All right.
Jason, doesn't matter. Doesn't, whether if it's a buck,
It matters.
Huge.
It's a huge fucking
course.
difference. Because
Of course.
the base level offense of wire fraud doesn't send you to prison. What sends you to prison is the money,
dollar amount.
and then enhancements.
Correct. So, and it was what he told me a minimum of 10 times. Even the day that I went in and took the plea, I said, I've circled it. I've showed him, why can't you get this for me? Just show me. That way I have it. And he refused. Again, just didn't give a damn. Took my money, did his little bit of work that he did. So we were talking about just being able to see proof in the plea deal about the $15 million.
Right.
And me not even knowing, being a 40-year vet, he should have knew. He should have knew that $15 million is huge.
Yeah.
And again, I was thrown to the wolves. He could care less. And so, just even bringing it, like I had talked to you about my wife, was just absolute humiliation, 100%. I struggled with that with my family. I think that's the hardest part in all this. If I didn't have a family, it would have, probably would have did things a little bit different, but I was just so concerned about my wife and my kids, everybody, that surrounded me and my family. But it was absolute refusal. He said that, he had went to the DA, I'll call him the DA, and he said, you're not getting anything else. You've got what you're going to get. And just never had the ability to see that. So I go in and, make a long story short, I take the plea. And I was like this far from backing out of it because I've always been a fighter, will continue to fight. But take the plea and get in front of the judge, do the deal, blah, blah, blah. And, walk out of there, get to go home by the grace of God that day. Or, I could have, who knows, it could have cut me, but not being in this, but I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. And,
a lot of times that they could have remanded you right there and said, okay, he just pled guilty, take him into custody. And
Sure.
just wait for the sentencing.
yeah. And I mean, there was just other things involved where the judge is asking the attorney, he's stuttering, just wasn't prepared and didn't give a damn.
Right.
So enough of him. And so, get back home, working through what was going on. And then, the next thing I get a call from the attorney, this famous attorney. He says, hey, listen, you're going to do what's called a PSR or PSI, whatever they call it. Never did one, never researched it. Again, ignorance, absolute ignorance by me. That's how I look at it. And he goes, I'm traveling. I'm not going to be on the call with you. Okay, so listen.
My public defender fucking came with the person and sat there for an hour and a half during my PS and prepped me before I even spoke to the person.
I had no idea what it was. He said a couple things to me.
Don't lie. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did.
Did he?
But he said, tell me you do drugs. Tell me you use drugs, but don't lie. I said, I don't use drugs. Well, tell me you do drugs, but don't lie. There's a thing, blah, blah,
Yeah.
it may help you.
RDAP.
It's called RDAP. And I'm not making fun of RDAP by any means. I think it's probably a great program for people, but the way it was presented to me, I'm not a drug user.
It could have been alcohol.
And alcohol is a drug, right? But it wasn't explained by any means. But don't lie. Look, I got to go click. And honestly, that was it. And so the woman that did the PSR sends me an email and says, I have tried to reach your attorney and I've left 4 emails. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I need to interview you. And so this was from her. They had my email. Next thing you know, that same day, I get a call from him. Hey, you got to, I said, dude, she just got off the phone with me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, it was that bad where this should make sense, had an extremely bad taste in her mouth before I even got on the phone. Mm-hmm. She's like, it's not my job to chase you or your attorney. So I set up the appointment. I said, hey, no problem. And in short words, I did my PSR in my garage alone by myself at home in a fucking garage. A PSR, which is so important.
Right. With
You're fighting for your life, man.
With the probation officer sitting
Right.
here. Okay.
Well, she's on the phone because they were from Texas. I'm in
okay.
Florida.
Okay.
I didn't have to go there. We were able to do it over the phone.
Okay.
And she asked me specifically, is your attorney going to be on the phone with us? And I said, he's not going to be around. He said he can't do it. And, and it was one of his things where if you can't answer, if you get stuck, just tell her, move on to the next question. Yeah. So at that point, I'm irate. I'm going, wow, this second attorney is, the writing's on the wall. I mean, I've literally been, so I do been through the ringer. So I do the PSR and he doesn't go over the PSR with me at all. Not a page, not a Zoom or a phone call that says, hey, let's go through this page by page and go through what they said so you can do your rebuttals, so on and so forth. And so the PSR came in at a 28 to a 30. Again, I had no idea what that number was. 72 to 93, or the 30 is 93 to 120 months. And I'm going, whoa. I mean, literally. I mean, I was sick. And again, it was all based off of that $15 million. That point that I had made from the beginning with the DA, from as far back as you can go, just show me the $15 million. Show me the proof. And the second attorney never even asked for discovery or factual evidence.
Right.
Never even asked that question. Again, not trying to, that battle is lost. And so when I got the PSR, or when I found out what the number was on the PSR, they kept prolonging it. They had, you got to wait for your date, yada, yada. And I got to a point where, I'm like, trying to figure out sentencing and how all this works. And I just got to a point where I'm like, this guy, I don't know what kind of jail time I can get. He's fought for absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's when I hired a third attorney out of Texas. And this third attorney that I hired, he was right around 40,000. So and he was going to be I'll get you through the sentencing unless I find something, unless I see something that doesn't look right. And I said, what? Okay. Well, what he was going for is the factual evidence and discovery.
Right.
Because his first question is when I dumped the second one and I hired the third one, he goes, send me the factual evidence and the discovery from the attorney. And I said, I don't have it. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I don't have it. Your attorney didn't ask for it? I said, if he did, I don't have it. And I, blah, blah, blah. I said, let me get to the bottom of this. He calls me back and goes, you sitting down? I said, yeah. He goes, you're not going to believe it. Your attorney never asked for the factual evidence or the discovery for the case, which is almost unheard of today.
Yeah, yeah. You at the very least, you asked for discovery. What you're talking about is discovery. I want to see discovery. I want to see what you have against him. I want to see.
In a case like this, right. Would you not agree?
Yeah, because otherwise the government can just say, they can say anything, and they
can
will
do what they want.
Right.
Right, and they do.
Right. When I first got arrested, they told me that I had stolen $26 million. Personally.
Oh, right. You had it hidden.
$26 million. Then when I said, I've never sold $26 million, then they dropped it down to $15 million. No, wait. No, it was $26 million in loss. Then it was like $22 million in loss. Then they said $15 million in loss. And it was like, and then my PSI said $9.5 million in loss.
Oh.
And then I argued and got it down to $6 million in loss. And I got it down from $9.5 million to $6 million just by saying, that's bullshit. I've never seen I didn't steal $9.5 million. Where are you getting these numbers? And they said, well, is it between 3 and 6? Oh. And I went, probably. And they went, okay, well, we'll go with that. I said, okay. And then they said 6.
Yeah. I never had that opportunity.
Just saying, that's not true.
Sure.
Dropped it. That's not true. Dropped it. That's not true. Dropped it.
Yeah.
Just by saying it. I didn't even ask for the information.
Yeah.
So you had asked for the information and said, I want to see that.
I begged for it.
Dell to provide it.
Today.
Provide me right now how much on every single account, how much was paid, how much was, and
it's called a portfolio, which you would know what that means.
Right.
It's very easy.
Very easy. It's already
it'll show, they would have it ready in 12 minutes, 2 minutes, 8 minutes, depends how quick they're sipping their coffee. Well, and they would send over the dollar amount sent.
Yeah.
And then who paid and who, they have all the breakdown.
Well, here's the other thing is that you would be able to go in and say, I received this much. Because I'm assuming they're saying, hey, this client borrowed $100,000. We got 14 payments.
Yeah.
He still owes us $85,000. So you owe us $85,000. But you would be able to say, well, wait a minute. I didn't get $100,000.
Correct.
That money should be offsetted by 1, the cost of the device, 2, the money that was sent to the client, 3, the money that I sent to the broker. I made this much money.
Correct.
So I should have to pay back what I made.
Correct.
And you can certainly go after the clients. It sounds like you think they did something wrong. Were they indicted also? Or, did you go after them?
No, they just let them go. Just me. And I provided.
So who are the other conspirators? So if it's conspiracy, where are the other conspirators?
I believe probably brokers, if that's what they think. I don't know. But they knew that that's where the money was going because they had the bank statements. They knew exactly where every dollar went.
So go after them for the money.
Not even that, though. Not even that, Matt. FBI agents were going to the business owners and they were telling them to stop paying your invoice. Don't make any more payments. We have that in writing. There's a lawsuit going on right now where the woman went, oh God, she's paying on time. Didn't know anything that was going on. 2 agents walk in and we go, blah, 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 was involved in blah, blah, blah. They committed fraud. You're making your payments like you should be on time. You're doing everything that you said you would do. We would advise you to stop making your payments. And she did.
They're creating losses.
And she did. And then the leasing company turned around and there's a massive lawsuit now. And they're all going back and forth. And I got a copy of that because they wanted to wheel me in.
Right.
Wheel me in. I don't mean to say it like that. And I get the paperwork and I'm going, FBI agents, why would they go to work, people that are running a business and telling them to stop making payments on their lease? I mean, they would come and repossess the card, would they not? If you had a vehicle and you stopped making payments. And again, and I took that to the 4th attorney and it was, but
so this is the 3rd attorney.
So the third attorney, I didn't get to finish with that. I don't mean to jump out of there. So the 3rd attorney that I gave about $40,000 to, remember, he was the one looking for the factual evidence or the discovery on the case. And he comes back and he goes, okay, I got, he didn't get it. Obviously, we know that. He said, but I got it. And I'm going to go through this. I'm going to look through everything. And, let's give me a couple days on this and let's talk. I said, okay, so give him a couple days. And I get a call back from him. And he goes, have you ever heard of statute of limitations? I said, yeah. And he goes, we may have a case here. I'm like, bing, 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 bing. Really? Statute of limitations. He says it was only, I believe it was 5 years. And so his play was, now he's selling me on, let's pull the plea, file a motion. We're going to pull the plea. So we're going to try to, and we're going to base it off of statute of limitations. And when we do this, the minute we get that plea reversed, we're going to file that statute of limitations. We're going to get this thrown out of here.
Okay. The problem is that it's the way they're looking at it is a continuing.
Correct.
So statute of limitations doesn't apply if it's a continuing crime. So it could be
correct.
You could have done things 30 years ago, and there's a 5-year statute of limitations. They're like, yeah, but it's continuous.
Correct.
But you don't know that.
I didn't know that.
Right.
He felt comfortable with it.
Yeah, he didn't feel comfortable with it. He felt comfortable with convincing you, and then he can ask you for more money.
This is number 3.
Right.
This is attorney number 3.
I can't believe you're standing here saying that attorneys are scumbags. I feel like you're saying attorneys
number
are scumbags.
3. No, yeah.
If federal attorneys, that's the top tier scumbag.
Yeah, aren't they? They're supposed to be.
Right. That's they're on the top of the shit pile.
Yeah. So he knows the DA really well.
They play golf. Pat and I are best. I call Pat right now. I was at his kid's christening 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. He says, so I happened to run into the DA. I said, where were you? Oh,
the country club.
Yeah. I ran into him and I had some questions that I had asked him. I said, this is great. I said, wow, we got a statute case. I'm free. Whoa, yes. Thank you, God. This is all over. My headache's fucking gone. And I said, go now and find out the $15 million in losses. I want to see it. Yes, I got number 3. This guy he's going to go get it for me. He comes back and he says, well, the DA doesn't have it and he's not going to ask for it. And we're not going to get anything else from him. It's exactly what I was told about the losses, the proof of the losses. It's important for me to say that. The $15 million. He's not going to go back and ask Dell for it because Dell Financial was supposedly where the complaint started. This is what brought all this to Texas where I was at. And he says, but I'll tell you what, we got a hell of a case with this statute case. He said, I think this is a go. He's like, I want you to sleep on it. And I think let's pull this plea.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
And I said, okay. So I did. I slept on it. And again, being a fighter. Calls me the next day. He goes, so what do you think? I said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. He goes, well, here's the replicate. This is what could happen. Could go to trial, and I'm going to need another $40,000. He's going through the payment plan. I said, well, I'm thinking he's got a statute case. If it doesn't, this is what could happen. He files the motion.
So bad.
He files the motion to pull the plea, which is serious.
Yeah.
If you don't have, so I'm not trying to make light in this matter.
No. First of all,
It's
it
extremely
infuriates
serious.
the court. Well, it
The
infuriates
judge.
the judge, the
The
court,
judge.
which is the court.
Correct. And so he files a motion to pull the plea. We're doing the happy dance.
Yeah.
Like I really felt, maybe I was in fucking dream world. I felt good about it. I was like, you know what? This is going to work out. 4 hours later, I get a call. We made a mistake. We
What?
made a
It's
fucking
not like
mistake.
We didn't make a mistake.
Same day. We made Listen, I was wrong about the statute thing. I just got off the phone with the DA. We need to pull it now. And I said, you just filed the fucking thing.
Did you pay him the other 40
I almost,
something?
no.
Okay.
No, I almost hit the floor, honestly. I was almost at a breaking point. Because I was like, it was more my wife. Because she was riding that, hoping, praying, things are going to work out. Everything's going to be good. And not even 4 hours later, I get a phone call from him saying, I made a mistake. We need to reverse this. You're cooked. I said, this is what you told me to fucking do. No. I hung up.
All right.
He waits, calls me the next day. You okay? Like, are you fucking kidding me? No. What do you mean? I mean, I knew the severity of that. And it was, again, on the statute of limitations. I wasn't trying to piss. I was going by what the third attorney had told me. So I'm immediately going, I'm doomed. Now, he says, let's pull it. Hopefully the judge forgives us. And I'll work on your sentencing. Well, how can I, again, here I am in third attorney and I'm going, this is a fucking disaster. How can I trust him moving forward? I do something that he recommends. 4 hours later, he calls me and says, I made a mistake. And you don't make a mistake on these kind of moves. These are life-changing. Mm-hmm. Could cost me years in prison. You know that. Mm-hmm. It's serious. And so I said, I need a couple days. I need air to breathe. And I really felt like I was going to collapse. Honest to God, I was at a breaking point. I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on here, but I've just had enough. Remember, 3 attorneys. Bit of just the lies. Just it was unbelievable. So started looking around for attorney number 4, and which we found. And out of all 4, they've probably done the best that they could with what they were handed with. And when I hired the 4th attorney, he had gotten all the information on the case, and he just said, I'll ride this out with you if you want. Because I was still considering pulling the plea because my brain's going, we had this. My wife, it was a tough moment for me. And I'll never forget, he called me at like 11 o'clock at night And he's like, Jason, listen. He's like, we're in a fucking airplane right now, and we're 30,000 feet in the air. I've got a parachute strapped to my back. You don't have any. He's like, I'm pushing you out of this fucking plane. Now I'm going to jump with you. He's like, but you're going to fall and die. I'm going to be okay. I'll be right there with you, but I'm going to open up my parachute. And it was what he used as a paraphrase. I'll go to court and
fucking
fight.
horrible. Fucking. That's,
Yeah, well, because he was saying you're cooked. We need to pull the plea back.
Oh, okay.
We need to pull the plea back from the statute, from the claim from the third attorney.
Yeah.
And let's
it's a horrible fucking.
Let's beg for forgiveness, which we did. Everything was fine. And so I didn't mean to use that, but that's what he was, because I was just in this, I was just in another world. Yeah, I was thinking this is what's happening. And, but yeah, so he's like, we're in this plane, like I explained. I got a parachute, you don't. I'm throwing you out. I'm jumping with you because I'm with you. I'll finish this to the end, but you're cooked. If we go to court and this doesn't happen and the judge, you're cooked. And so he filed the motion, accepted the plea, throw out the motion to vacate my plea, and, got basically back into trying to figure out the best way for sentencing. Tried to clean up the PSR a little bit. There really wasn't much you could do because we had missed precious time, from the second attorney that I had dealt with.
Right.
And, but yeah, it was, so pulled the plea back, or the motion that we filed to remove, just stick with the plea that we had made with them, and followed the motions up until getting sentenced. Day we went in, I was telling you, again, don't mean to jump around, but Dell Financial. So I had in losses, we had about a total of 800,000. That was the number that they had given us, because they had went in and tried to get everything that they could. So the loss amount was 800,000
So
out of the 15.
It wasn't 15.
No, it was 800,000.
So
a couple companies responded and said, this is what our losses were. And so a month prior, or 2 weeks prior to being sentenced, it would have been in April, we get a call. It was like a spring break thing from the DA saying, listen, we need an extra 30 days at spring break. We didn't take into consideration the spring break stuff. And so give us 30 more days. So I'm like, okay, 30 more days with the family.
You're fucking lying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lying through their teeth. 30 more days with the family. Not a big deal. And a week prior to sentencing, the new date is when I got the $9 million number. There's $9 million. And it was through an email. It said, oh, we just got this from the DA. The 800,000 just went to $9 million. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
From who?
From Dell, which was one big player, 6.3 million in losses. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple other, 3 or 4 of them that said we had lost X amount of dollars.
Right.
The total was so it went from 800,000 to about another $8 million. So 6.3 of that was from Dell, which is a huge number. Because again, when you're going in front of a judge that's sentencing you, 800,000 looks a lot better than 9 million, 9.1 or 9.2 million.
Right.
Even with them, as hard as they worked for me, the fourth attorney that I had, I still said, that's bullshit. It's not true.
Right.
It's fucking not true. It's not true. Ask for it. Go to him and say, okay, where is it? And I explained the portfolio. Remember, they're attorneys. They're in a tunnel. Left, right, that doesn't exist. Here's the verbiage. Go to them and ask for it. And it was basically just, we didn't want to piss the judge off. You made a great comment earlier that I was going to refer back to, which was the tail end of this, is everybody was worried about pissing the judge off. As opposed to, I was like, well, what about my fucking rights?
Yeah.
What about me? How does a judge, hold on, I'm not saying anything bad. How does a federal judge fucking sign off on a $9 million restitution with no proof?
Right.
Is that bad to say, Matthew?
Because it's you would think that the judge wants to have accurate information in front of him in order to sentence someone. Like, I don't want to sentence. If a judge is really concerned about justice at all or doing the right thing at all, then he's concerned about having accurate information, because the truth is, even if you're just a decent fucking person, I don't want to give someone 9 years that should get 2. You know, because let's face it, then what ends up happening is I've sentenced someone who to 7 extra years that they don't deserve, and that's not right, right?
Sure.
You want it to be reflective of the crime. So I don't see why you can't ask Dell, where's the losses, how much was supposed to be paid, and how much was paid. I mean, this is simple math. This isn't calculus. This isn't extremely difficult math. This is not. This is, hey, we lent him this much. He paid back this much. He was supposed to pay back this much. Okay, here's what the loss is. It's real simple.
And then break it down, like you said, business owner got 50%.
Right.
Broker got 20.
Right.
And we kept 30, but through the expenses, whatever number you want to give it.
Yeah, we whittled it down to it'd probably be less than 800,000, but you know,
doesn't look good for them. You know, the big number is $9.2 million. The slam dunk.
They spent a significant amount of money rating you. They were, you know, of course, I'm sure they were thinking it was huge numbers, and they want you to go to jail for a long time.
Yeah,
because it makes them feel good.
Yeah. And one thing I found curious too, and maybe it happens, that the head FBI agent retired right after I took the plea.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's normal. I just found it to be peculiar a little bit. And he was at the sentencing. He was there to make sure that, he's retired.
Right.
And, he was one of the few that were in there to see me go to jail, And I was surprised to see him there too. But, that's kind of stuck with me a little bit, just as, curious why, or maybe it was his time to go, but retiring right after my plea, I don't know. I think it's, a bit much. But, so I think, judge sentenced me 54 months in federal prison. And
was that the low end of the guidelines?
It was better, because when I was in there, they called me the ringleader, so I got an additional 2 points. So that's why the 28 went to 30, and so that guidelines was like 93 to 120, something like that. And the PSR, the lady that did the PSR, was asking for 72 to 93, somewhere in that. So 54 is a lot less than what I could get. And I'm sitting there going 12, 24, 36, 48. I'm a numbers guy. I'm like, all right, 4.5 years. And the way the judge was talking, he wasn't, really happy, and, which I understand, but he has a job to do. But I put a lot of footwork in, and I almost think, because you have a lot of consultants, a lot of guys out here that prison consultants, and
right.
Everybody knows this and everybody knows that. And one thing that I can tell you is I did self-educate a lot, through trying to get through the sentencing, and my wife did a lot of footwork on that. Tremendous. Shout out to her. She deserves it. And so when I went into my sentencing, I prepared through putting footwork in, like doing the work. And it was almost like I felt like it was used against me. Like I was just too buttoned up for some reason. I remember the judge telling me something that I have more people that stand in front of me that say a lot less than you, that may be more remorseful than you. I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm not sure what that means, but and I don't get time to explain that. Hey, I'm just trying to put the work in and rebuild, I guess, if that's the best way to put it. But 54 months in federal prison, and I turn myself in tomorrow to the BOP. So Coleman. Yeah. Coleman. You were there, I think you said, right?
I was at I did 3 years at the medium and 9 years at the low. And I was in the Marshall holdover because I didn't get bond.
I don't know what that means.
like when they arrest you, they take you in.
Oh, God.
And they hold you.
Yeah.
Like you've been out the whole time.
Yes, sir.
So I was never out.
Wow.
So it was a year from being captured, for being arrested. Then 6 months later, I pled guilty. And then 6 months later, I was sentenced. Yeah. But I was in custody the entire time. That's why I was saying also a lot of times when you plea, you say, hey, okay, I'm guilty. They'll go, okay, take them into custody right then. You're like, fuck. A lot of times that like the attorneys haven't arranged for you to stay out.
Yeah.
A lot of times, it's a good attorney. He goes to the U.S. attorney and says, look, he's going to plead guilty.
we want him to stay out with his family. We want him to be able to self-surrender. They'll be like, yeah, okay, he hasn't been a problem. We don't think he's going to take off and run. So that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. And then you plead guilty. And then the judge says, okay, we're going to let him stay out.
Sure.
And then you get sentenced. Sometimes you get sentenced, And if the decent attorney, he's contacted the U.S. attorney, said, look, at sentencing, we'd like him to stay out so he can stay with his family until he has to go to prison.
Yeah.
Because trust me, you don't want to go sit in the county jail, or the U.S. Marshal's holdover. It really sucks.
Yeah. And that's one good thing my attorneys did do. Mm-hmm. And another thing I didn't realize is when you owe restitution, if you put, X amount of dollars in your commissary, that they want to take that. They'll take a piece of your commissary money to pay back your restitution. Another good thing that my attorney did was ask the judge that I have X amount of dollars put to the side that they cannot touch, so that I can use for whatever I need for my commissary, every month, which the judge did agree, which was good. And it was the damnedest thing. One of the FBI agents jumped out of his seat and said, he was sitting behind.
Yeah.
And he says, again, I'm in a fog there. And he says, I don't need Jason he used my last name. Yeah. I don't need Jason having $1 million sitting on the books and I can't touch it. I want to be able to get that money. And I was
Who
like,
the fuck's putting
$1 million on the books? Those were his exact words. And the judge was like, whoa. You can only put X amount of dollars in there. But this guy, it was unbelievable. Yeah. To the end. I mean, they're riding to the end thinking that I'm going to put $1 million. I'll be lucky. I think you get $500 a month or something, $340.
Yeah, I think you can spend like $350 a month.
Right. So you don't get a whole lot.
Yeah. You can put as much as you can put in the account, but he's being a jackass. Nobody's putting $1 million in their fucking account. It's called FRP. They'll take it.
Yeah. So a couple things that my last attorney did do that, he set up some things that I do greatly appreciate. And so.
Did you end up getting RDAP? Like, did the judge recommend you do RDAP or?
No, I was told because I had spoken with my attorney. See, I didn't understand what RDAP was. Right. It was never explained by my second attorney. He just had said, say you have a drug issue and don't lie, where I'm thinking about drugs as heroin, cocaine, something heavy like that.
Right.
As opposed to, I've been drinking since I've been 15.
Right.
So an alcohol is a drug.
Yeah.
And so as I was able to educate myself more on the RDAP program, we had spoke about it. I did talk to my attorney about it. And I actually had seen a counselor too, which also recommended, that I do have an issue with alcohol.
Right.
And that, she had written out a recommendation that RDAP would help me tremendously. So,
right.
But
it's so funny because had your second attorney just explained that, hey, there's a program if you have an addiction problem, not drugs, doesn't have to be, alcohol is a drug, but but had he just explained more accurately or even had a 10-minute conversation with you, like, hey, do you ever drink to excess? Do you ever this? And if you said, well, yeah, I do. So there are times I definitely do. And
absolutely.
Like that's, that would have qualified and that would have been, they would have said, oh, wow, I think you could have benefited from this. And then they could have gone in front of the judge and said that too. And then it's almost a lock.
Yeah. And again, like you said, if it was explained properly, and it just never was, but we'll see what happens. And again, I've been drinking since I've been 15 years old, and I believe that RDAP would help me tremendously.
Right. Well, I think, I was going to say, what's so funny is, you just had one fucking horrific attorney after another.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why these fucking attorneys ask for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. And I'm telling you right now,
120, sure.
120. Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, you'll go to an attorney, to a jailhouse attorney, and you'll get better fucking advice from a jailhouse attorney, and you'll pay him some honey buns and 2 6-packs of soda.
Yeah.
And that guy will fucking file a 2255 and get 2 years or knocked off your sentence or,
Sure. Sure.
But if you, the problem is you think you have a ton of time. And I know it feels like a ton of time. You
Yeah.
know? And because the truth is no matter how much time you get, it always feels ridiculous. Like I said, I've
A
said
day's
this.
too much for me.
Yeah,
No offense.
I've said this over and over again. I've only met 2 people ever that told me they got a deal. Not only did that's what I deserved, but they were like, I got a deal.
Yeah.
One guy was a guy who was up for 10 days. He was a long distance truck driver. Was driving through a national park with his semi, and finally just kind of passed out and ran over 2 hitchhikers.
Whoa.
Yeah, just a couple, two
Wow.
20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Ran them over. Vehicular homicide. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there is no such thing as vehicular homicide in the federal courts. So they charge him with murder. So
Yeah.
double murder, and he got like 15 years.
Wow.
And it was tearing him apart too. Like
Yeah.
it's not like he was like not remorseful. When I even mentioned to him, I don't even know why I said this. I actually, it was just the stupidest fucking thing I could have said. Was I actually remember saying, well, when he told me he got 15 years and what happened, I was like, well, I mean, are you working on it? Is there a way you can, are you working on it? Like, are you working on that 15 years? Like, are you trying to fight it?
Yeah.
Which, is just a natural thing to say to most people because you typically are saying that a lot. I don't know why I just said it, not even thinking about the severity of his crime. And he looked at me and his eyes filled up with tears and he said, I killed 2 people.
Yeah.
He said, I got a deal. And then he
Yeah.
got up and walked away before he started crying in front of me.
Wow.
He was that upset about it. Second person is Boziak. Boziak was a buddy of mine, supposed to get like 12 years or 12 or 14 years, something like that. And just so happened, just a complete accident, his attorney happened to mention, I can't believe I'm going to go to jail for 12 years because the guy at the UPS store opened that package. He's like, this is just so stupid. And she was like, he was about to sign his plea agreement. She reached over, she goes, wait a minute, and pulled it back. She goes, no. She said, they had a warrant to open the package. And he goes, no. He said, the UPS guy called and asked them, hey, I think this guy's shipping drugs. And they were like, well, they ran my name, my fake name, and nothing came up. And they said, well, we got no way to get a warrant. We'd have to know what was in there to be able to bust him. Like, we don't know. We don't have any indication that this guy's ever been arrested for sale of drugs or smuggling or anything. And the guy was like, oh, okay, hangs up the phone, opens the package himself, takes it upon himself, calls them back and says, look, it's not drugs, it's credit cards. And they were like, and
bingo.
Right. So, he tells her that and she's like, really? And she grabs the thing. She goes, I'll be back. And this is a public defender, leaves. He didn't pay her a dime.
Yeah.
Leaves, comes back like 4 or 5 days or a week later and says, I got him to drop all the charges except for the aggravated identity theft because you did open the account using a fake ID.
Wow.
It's 2 years. I
Yeah.
can't do any better than that. He's like, give me the pen. What do you mean? What are you talking? And he signs it. He was thrilled. He's like, bro, I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That's it. Out of the entire time I was locked up, 2 guys. So, I mean, it's always seemed horrific.
Yeah.
But the truth is the 54 months.
54 months. Yeah.
Which is bad to you. And I'm sure you probably don't give a shit that it's you. You're concerned about getting back to your family and your
100%.
son and your wife because,
Sure.
know. But I think what happens is, you'll get the Second Chance Act credits.
Right.
You'll get 15% off.
Yeah.
You get into RDAP, you pass, you'll get a year. You might be in prison less than 2 years.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
You can max out too. I think the first step, I think you were saying, but you can get up to 415. So you only get a year off of your time in jail, but them extra 50 days that you get, they'll either give it to you, they can add it on to your house arrest or home confinement
yeah.
or halfway home.
Yeah.
So, and I'll be working every day, staying busy, programming, doing whatever I got to do. And it's been a hell of a ride though. I feel like it's only the beginning, because there's a lot that, there's a lot of things that go on out here, and it's hard to fight the DOJ, which 98% of people take a plea, and there's a reason why.
Yeah. Well, it's even harder when the people that you're paying to be an advocate for you are working against you.
Yeah, they're on the same team, and you don't really realize it. But one day at a time.
I'll tell you something that lawyers do that I've heard over and over again. So a lot of state lawyers do this. So let's say you're a drug dealer and you've got a lawyer that you use and you've come to him before, little charges. He goes in front of the judge. You give him $5,000. He represents you. He gets probation, whatever. A lot of state attorneys. So finally you come back to him and you say, listen, my house got raided by the DEA or a task force. Let's say there's a task force, and knowing the task force is tied in with the DEA, right? It's a drug task force. They tied it. They raided my house and this, and and so, but you were essentially raided by the local police.
Local FBI?
No, just
Or
local sheriff's department
Okay.
or local police. Even though it's a task force that's maybe being monitored or run by the DEA or FBI, something like that. But so initially you were arrested by the sheriff's department and went to the county jail.
Gotcha.
So, but you got out. He gets you out, or he comes to see you because you talk to your girlfriend and you say, "Hey, go get my lawyer." He comes to see you. He says, "Look, I can get you out on bond," whatever it is. And so typically what these guys, as soon as they sit down, they know it was a task force. It's run by the DEA.
Yeah.
This isn't the local sheriffs. He already knows it's going federal.
Yep.
He could have, even before he sat down, called the task force or called the district attorney and said, "Hey, my client, boom, 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 is this going to go federal?" And that person may have said, "Oh, absolutely, it's going to end up going federal."
Yeah.
That attorney then comes in and sits down with these guys and they're like, "Listen, how did you get raided? Like, I don't, how much, I mean, is it that big of a deal?" And these guys are like, "No, like I got this, no, I'm nowhere. I mean, are you moving like fucking keys or something?" And they're like, "No, nothing like that."
Yeah.
And he's like, "How did that's insane." And so these guys will be like, yeah. So he's like, "So yeah, this isn't going to go federal, right?
Yeah.
This is just, you're moving a half a key, whatever." Yeah. And you go, "Oh, okay. So yeah, I'll represent you. So here's what you do." He's like, "Look, I'll represent you, go to trial, everything. Give me 20 grand in cash." Or not in cash, sorry. Give me 20 grand.
Yeah.
Give me 20 grand. I'll represent you through everything. 20 grand does everything because you've been coming to me for a while.
Yeah.
But listen, if it goes federal, you're going to have to get another attorney. But like you said, it's small time. You're not moving hundreds of keys. It's not going to go federal. But so give me the 20. It's non-refundable. But if you go federal, I can't help you. You got to get a federal attorney. But like you said,
Yeah.
and the guy's like, yeah, no, it's not going to go federal. I'm not, you know what? I'm not barely moving anything. But okay, cool. So he arranges to give the guy $20,000, even though he knows it's going federal. So he just took 20 grand.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, he finally comes in and goes, "Man, bad news, bro. It went federal. You're going to have to get a federal attorney."
Wow.
And he's like, "Man, I gave you 20 grand, but I gave you, yeah, I know you give me 20, but that money's gone. I've already used that in all the, I've been looking into this. I made calls. I've my legal team." He hadn't done anything. He didn't do anything. He went on a cruise.
Yeah.
I just got back from my cruise.
Yeah.
But
100%.
That's just kind of what they do. It's like, "Hey, I can get this guy for $120,000. I'll promise him all kinds of stuff." But the truth is, his life is in such shambles right now. I can do anything, and the money is the least of this guy's problems right now. And they get away with it and get away with it and get away with it. And it's like you would have to, probably the only way to get something back or get the money back would be, and you actually could, because almost nobody ever does this, is file something with the bar. Other attorneys don't even tell you to do this.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Oh, that's just the way it is." You know damn well it's not the way it is.
Yeah.
You can take all the paperwork, write it all up, and file something with the bar in whatever. "This is what my agreement says.
Yeah.
Here's the email. Here's this." I spoke with him on the phone. I told him you can't move that money.
Yeah.
Whatever, he this, he that. And you can see that this, and then he took all the money. He lied about this. He didn't know this. He didn't know that. Completely ineffective, charging an astronomical fee.
Sure.
File that with the bar. The bar is going to write him a letter and say, "We're opening an investigation into this allegation."
And he'll respond.
And he'll respond.
Then it goes in front of a 3-judge panel.
"Oh, okay. Oh, you've been here. Did you already do this?"
Yeah.
And what happened?
They, in front of the 3-judge panel, they threw it out.
Oh, okay, why? Because
Can't get a response for some reason. Haven't been able to. We've tried and tried. Yeah,
you can't get a response from the panel.
Yeah, why they declined it. So yeah, I did exactly what you just explained.
Did you
Wrote
argue?
it.
Were you arguing that he was ineffective, or were you arguing?
It was a little bit of everything. Yeah,
Okay.
ineffective, touching the money from the IOLTA account. There was quite a few things. Just I don't have it in front of me, but there was.
Yeah, that doesn't.
There was, but I had gone to the 1%. That's what they call it. So it went as far as it could go in front of a 3-judge panel, because 90% of that's thrown out right off the bat.
Yeah, because most people argue just a payment dispute.
Yeah,
And they we don't deal with payment disputes. But if you argue that he's ineffective,
just gross
misconduct, right?
Yeah, misconduct, negligence, a little bit of everything, and we're still
shocking.
working on trying to get the reason why. I don't have it. I don't know, but we did do that. So
I wonder if you can file a state court claim.
we'll have to see.
You know, because at some point he'd probably just be like, he'd try and give you something back at some
Yeah,
point.
I doubt it.
Really?
I doubt it. Yeah, he's probably on a fucking cruise ship
All
somewhere.
right.
So
Man. Yeah, I'm sorry.
it's all good. Yeah.
How long ago did this legal battle start, and how long ago was sentencing?
The beginning of this has been about 2.5 years. So it was December of 22, 2 weeks before Christmas. And then the sentencing was last month on what is today? The 2nd. So it was April 25th. I think it's been about a month and a half. Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to ask this question, but I'm always curious. Like, what has this last month and a half been like? Because usually I'm asking this question, like, and if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. I mean, I'm always curious, and I'm always asking, 10 years after the fact, 5 years after the fact. Very rarely is someone in the situation,
Yeah. Well, I think it may happen to more people than you believe, but
Well, I'm saying to have someone here.
No.
that I can
gotcha.
ask
We're
that
typically
question
talking to
to.
someone
gotcha.
20 years after they've committed their
after,
crime,
yeah.
or 10 years, or 5.
I mean, you keep your face strong. So, I've always been resilient, and family wise, wife wise, it's been brutal. It's sometimes you wake up and you got to pinch yourself like you're, when is this going to end?
Mm-hmm.
So, we've had to do, not to get too personal, but we've had to move some things around, and we've just had to do different things. We still have a young daughter at home. It's just been a lot, so without getting into too much detail, it's a surreal moment. I'm ready to get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
It's been hard though. It's very hard, very emotional. Even with, I've got 2 older kids that, had to come in and spend some time with me, yada, yada. So again, without putting out too much out there, because I don't want to, for their privacy. It's been brutal, absolutely brutal. So today's been a little bit of a more surreal moment. I think me and you talked when, I haven't gotten letter wasn't sent to the judge, no letter to the attorney. I've got nothing in the mail, but I turn myself in tomorrow by 2:00. So again, I don't know if that's a normal process. According to my attorney, I keep getting told they're supposed to be, served with the date, time, where I'm going, the whole 9 yards.
Right. Somehow, for some reason, that information, that paperwork didn't get filed or didn't go out, but
I don't think
BOP
so.
expects you to be there. So
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah, and I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
for sure. So it's been hell.
Yeah.
Absolute hell, 100%. But living for every day that I can, and something good will come out of this. There's no doubt. And then things are already working in our favor, and just got to keep praying hard.
Coleman's not going to be too bad.
Yeah.
It's like a shitty high school.
Yeah.
It's like a shitty day.
Well,
it's like a shitty summer camp.
I'm not into any shitty stuff.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I expect to keep busy.
Yeah.
Work my ass off, do whatever I can. I'm a people person. I love people. I'm I won't go around trouble. I don't want anything to do with trouble. So as long as I get in there and do everything that I'm supposed to, I'm respectful whether I'm here, wherever I'm at, I'm going to be respectful. I mean, a lot's going to happen there that I'll probably be laying there going, fuck, what was that? But I don't have time to argue or disagree with anybody. I don't give a fuck what's on TV.
Right.
I'm just going to stay busy.
Yeah, I was going to say that
I could care less what people are watching.
The ways you get in trouble is arguing.
Yeah, cell phone. Somebody said somebody will walk around with a stolen cell phone, or they got to.
Well,
I don't want anything to do with anything like that.
It's arguing over the TV. It's borrowing money.
Yeah.
It's running up debts.
Yeah.
You know, it's talking about people, like gossiping.
Sure.
I mean, you know, so you just keep your head down and you fucking. And the other thing for you, a clean cut white guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. People will be like, well, what are you here for? They think you're a chomo. They say a sex offender.
Yeah.
So the worst thing you do is to say, oh, my lawyer told me not to talk about my charges. That's a problem. Because they think, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're, so what you say is, I'm here for wire fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say that. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to, again, I'm not looking for best friends.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and fucking
but
cry to somebody, but I will tell people
be.
this is, and again, they'll be able, I mean, people have access once they have my name. You can look it up. It's fucking everywhere. It says.
I was going to say, but I would.
It's clear as day. But yes, I agree with you. Yeah. Because somebody, I don't know if it was Dan
Wise.
said something about because I didn't get the camp, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know
what
why
it is, but
I'm not sure about that, because you
said
always go to a low first.
So you always go to a low no matter what?
In this district.
Okay, I didn't know that.
If you were in California, you'd go straight to a camp. Probably in New York too. Like there's a lot of districts where they'll send you straight to a camp.
Yeah.
But for some reason in this kind of the Florida, Georgia, South Carolina kind of district, they send you to a low, and then you'll either go up or down. Yeah. But you wanted to go to a low anyway because there's no art app at the camp. So if you went to the camp, like you're now,
which I'm fine with it.
Go to the low. So you're going to be at the low.
Yeah, I think it'll work out as good as it can be sitting in jail.
Right. Plus you're local.
Yeah. My wife's 2 hours down the street, we're very close. And that's what's important, being able to see each other, being able to communicate with each other. And again, I've self-educated, so I'm ready. I mean, ready as you can be. Yeah. Right? Who the fuck wants to go to jail? Yeah. Come on. Seriously. I mean, unless you are like young, I mean, you're just, I'm 50. I don't have time for this bullshit. I mean,
sometimes I like to go back for a couple months just to say hi to people. What's up? Little John.
Hey, look how good you did for yourself. But, it's, I'll help. If I can help people, I'd love to. I mean, I've been in finance, credit my whole life, and I hear, Dan was saying things like, people still trying to figure out how to do a checkbook and just educational stuff. Mm-hmm. Nothing bad. I mean, I'm no better than anyone else. Yeah, just if I can help, I'll do the best that I can.
Yeah, there's GED classes.
I've got my high school diploma now. So
not you.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. You meant for them. Sorry.
I'm talking about you teaching GED.
Oh, God. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that.
Well, they need tutors. Like you're a tutor. So, or you teach the ACE course, all those courses that meet the requirements for the Second Chance Act. Yeah. Right. Or is it Second Chance? First Chance Act, I think it's called. Anyway, FS. Whatever. Anyway, those courses that meet those requirements are typically taught by inmates. Yeah. So, I taught the real estate class. Nice. So, there'll be different classes that like, hey, do you have any experience in this? Or that? Yeah, I could do this, I could do that. And then you end up teaching a class and that helps your time go by.
Once a week or
it'll be
for an hour?
It'll be like on Tuesdays.
Well,
it'll be like twice a week. It'll probably be like Tuesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Mondays and Fridays, or Mondays and Thursdays, Wednesdays, whatever. Yeah. You teach that, and it's in 3 months it's over, and you teach 40 guys.
They give you credit for that, or no? Is it just
they give you credit and they give them credit, right? Yeah. So you get, as a teacher, you get credit for teaching the class.
Do you get double?
I don't think get double, but you're getting.
Does it become a part of your First Step Act? Does that?
That's what I'm saying. Those credits go towards that act. Yeah. That, or sometimes it's just a matter of working. But there's only so many jobs. Yeah. And there's too many inmates.
Yeah. Because a lot of people don't talk about you can max out the First Step at 415 days. Okay. Because everybody just says a year. But you can get those extra 50 days by putting the work in, which again can go towards home confinement or halfway house.
Right.
So again, just trying to self-educate,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
trying to walk in and go, and I almost feel like it's fucking used against you because they're like, don't go in. I'm not going in like acting like I know anything. I'm just trying to educate myself. And if I can help or talk or give back, that's exactly what I'm going to do. You know, so I'm good head-wise. It's more my family, you know, again, I've been married for 22 years, been with my wife 24, 25 years. We've been together our whole lives, man.
Right.
And I mean, I never went on vacations without her. We've basically, for the most part, been together almost every day, worked together. I know a lot of people can't do it, but we have. And if I can say anything, she's just been powerful in all this. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, I'd be like, damn, what the fuck? You know, what's going on here? But she sees everything. She sees everything that's going on. And her support has been tremendous. I think it's important for people, you know, if you've got that kind of support, you know, you got to shout them out and say, just be thankful. Praise God to her.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, the bell, so you get notified of videos just like this. Please go to Jason's Instagram, and it's called Beyond the Bars 54, so you can kind of follow his journey. They'll be posting videos. Please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. It really does help Colby and I with these videos. And share the video and leave a comment. Thank you very much. See ya.